What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here with another FCP Euro DIY. Today, we're going to be working on a 2002 BMW E46 M3. Today on the M3 behind me, we're going to be showing you how to replace the differential fluid as well as the fill and drain plugs. We're going to be using genuine fluid as well as genuine plugs. Both of these items are available on fcpeuro.com. We recommend you do this every 20 to 50,000 miles or every 4 years, whichever comes first. Now, before we get started on this DIY though, let's take a look at some of the tools we're going to need for this job. For this job, we're going to be using a 1/2-inch drive ratchet, a 1/2-inch drive torque wrench. We have a 12mm and a 14mm hex. Just keep in mind, sometimes the old hardware uses a different size hex bit or socket bit than the new stuff. Our old units in there are 12mm and the new ones take the 14. We also have a fluid transfer pump, and then not pictured here, you're going to need a catch pan for your fluid. We're going to be working on the lift today, so the vehicle is going to be pretty level. However, if you're doing this job at home in the garage or in the driveway, make sure you have a couple jack stands. You're going to need to make sure that the vehicle is level before you fill anything. It also helps with draining as well. Now we know what tools we're working with. Let's go ahead and get started on this DIY. All right, my good people, we are under the M3. Here you can see our differential. We have our drain plug and fill plug. Whenever you do this job, there's a couple things to take into consideration. One, you always want to crack the fill plug first. You want to make sure that you're able to remove that so that when you drain the system, you're able to refill it. Secondly, it always helps to make sure that the fluid is a bit warmed up before you drain it out, just so it's a bit thinner and flows a little bit easier. We took this for a quick ride before getting it up on the lift. So with that being said, we're going to grab our 12mm hex bit and our ratchet and work on breaking the fill plug free. 12mm hex. Depending on if yours have been serviced or not, you may have a 14. Since that broke free, we can go ahead and remove it in full. A little bit of fluid may drip out, but if it was filled properly last, we shouldn't really see too much. You'll also notice that our diff is pretty grimy. It did have a front pinion seal leak. Our own Gareth Foley actually just shot a DIY on that, so be sure to stay tuned for that. With our fill plug removed, we can go ahead and remove our drain plug. Again, using that same 12mm hex. Want to make sure it's situated all the way in. Another reason why we're doing this is, one, this vehicle has 288,000 miles on it, and two, they filled it with a different type of fluid, which probably okay for the diff, but we're a fan of using the OE or genuine fluid when possible. We're going to let that drip for a few minutes, and we'll come back and pick it up in a little bit. All right, at this point, we've given it about 15-20 minutes to drain. It's just a couple drips here where the threads are, so we're going to go ahead and clean that up and install our new drain plug. Now we'll be installing our drain plugs that have the built-in O-ring on them. These have a different torque spec than the ones with a metal crush washer. If you're doing the same ones that we are, you're going to want to torque these down to 60 Newton meters. If you're installing the ones with the metal crush washer, you're going to want to torque those down to 65 Newton meters. So just a slight difference, not the end of the world, but still good to do it to the right spec. So we're going to grab our 14 and go ahead and get this started. All right. Now I have my 14mm hex bit on my torque wrench. We're set to 60 Newton meters. We're going to go ahead and torque it down. Beautiful. Doesn't take much. With that situated, now we can grab our fluid transfer pump and start filling our differential. The idea is you're going to fill until it starts to dribble out of the fill hole. So it's going to take just under the 3 little containers that we have here. Each one of these is half a liter, so it might take just under probably like 1.2 liters. I'm gonna get my transfer pump situated in here first. These aren't always direct fit for the type of containers. So you can see these genuine BMW ones are pretty tiny, so I'm gonna hold this down here to the side and just work on pumping that fluid in as best as possible with this tool. I have 1 liter in and full so far. Grab our third half liter. Took about 75% of that last half liter. We're going to go ahead and let that dribble out to a small little drip, and then once it starts to do that, we'll go ahead and install our new fill plug. As you can see, our fill hole has come down to a steady drip. We're going to go ahead and install our new fill plug, and then just like we did on the drain plug, we're going to go ahead and torque this down to 60 Newton meters. Reminder, if you have the metal crush washer, it's going to be 65 Newton meters. 14mm hex bit. Bam, baby. And there you have it, my good people. Another DIY in the books. Overall, a pretty easy one and a straightforward one, but definitely a good one to stay on top of. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, leave them in the comment box below. And if you like this DIY and you want to see more like them, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.